Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Ted Davies Artistry. I'm back. We're actually doing interviews again, if you believe it or not. I know. It's been a while, but I wanted to bring somebody on here, and it kind of got me fueled up again for interviews. And I want to showcase this person because I think that as a cartoonist, as an artist, as a self-publisher, as a creative, this is going to help you on your journey. Because one thing, if it inspired me, it definitely will inspire you. I'm sure it will. So if you're new here, my name's Ted Davies. I'm an artist and author, best known for my book Retrieve and my book series Grim 101. And this is what we do here. We build creatives' businesses. And how do we do that? By content, I guess. A couple different ways we can do that. You can join, be part of Ted's tribe and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Or if you check the QR code there up in the corner, you can go to my Substack and check out what we're doing there. And that's pretty much for tutorials, background, little behind the scenes stuff, in a private podcast. For $5 a month, you'd be surprised what you get, or $50 a year. Check it out, what we're doing. I would love for you to be part of that subscription too. So today, this gentleman I've been following for a few years now, and he first crossed my path at a comic book store. This is the first time I met him. I met him a couple of weeks ago, but first time that we're actually really talking. Shawn Daley is a cartoonist. I really admire the work that he did with Samurai Grandpa. I was watching, just following it as it was produced, and I'm going to give you just a real quick rundown. I want to show you the first copy of the first book that I actually picked up, just for grins and giggles. And I just love the line quality. The thing about Shawn is that he doesn't consider himself a comic book artist. He's a cartoonist, which when he first said that to me, I get it, because I don't fall into the quote unquote comic book artist either. As a watercolor artist, I'm more of an illustrator, and I get what he's saying, and I get the way that he does business, and I really want you guys to meet him. So let's bring him out. How's my favorite Canadian today doing?
Is there anyone else in the room you're talking to, or is this? Yeah, thank you.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
We start out usually when any of the interviews I did in the past. I'm going to continue this part of the journey. When did you land on this planet, Shawn?
Oh, many years ago. I think, yeah, it was 1985. I just
Mhm.
kind of showed up out of nowhere,
Yeah,
and then that was it. Since then, I've just been living. It's crazy.
right. So you're from nowhere to now here, just a little
That's
bit
it.
different spacing, right?
That's it. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so for those who don't know, tell them a little about yourself. Tell them where you're from and where you grew up and all that fun stuff, where you got
Yeah.
educated.
Yeah, so I'm from Toronto. I live in the east end of the city, and it's nice, but I
Mhm.
was just in Vancouver, and I really like it there. So
Yeah,
the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, "Oh, do I want to be here forever?" But
it's so much,
uh,
so warm there. You
yeah,
know,
it's nice. Yeah, yeah.
the one
So
thing I liked about Vancouver was there wasn't any bugs when I was there. And I don't know if it's the
that's
time of year or what, but it
yeah,
was,
that's fair. I love bugs, so for me, I like
I
I go
saw,
bug hunting like every
yeah,
yeah
I
every
saw
summer.
that on your Facebook page, and it was like
Yeah,
crazy. It's awesome. It's awesome.
yeah, yeah. If there could be a bit more bugs there, maybe I'd move over that way. But like it's been yeah, yeah. So I live in Toronto, and I'm a cartoonist. So I write and draw comics for a living. But I studied music when I was younger, so I never really had an education in visual arts, especially
Mhm.
not comics. And I'm very self-taught. I just decided that I wanted to get out of music and do something a little bit different. And since then, I haven't stopped.
Well, creative is a creative, right? So,
That's it. There are skills that can transfer between mediums,
mhm,
between music and between comics. Because at the end of the day, you're it's all storytelling.
it
Like you're
is
just telling
storytelling,
a
right?
story, and when you're making an album, ideally, you're telling a story. When you're writing a song, you're telling a story.
Mhm.
And there are tips and techniques that you can apply from one to the other, and then you could even apply what you learn in comics to other art forms like dancing and theater, and it's all storytelling.
Absolutely. Tell everybody what kind of music you like. What
Well,
what you're from. What's
yeah,
your when you and I spoke first off, we talked about your where you were from musically is what you
yeah,
said.
right, yeah. So I grew up in the punk rock scene, and
Yeah.
then it was a lot of shows, a lot of going to shows, a lot of playing shows, just
Mhm.
kind of it was like its own. Well, it was a counterculture back in the day. I was going to
Yeah.
say it's almost like its own culture, but it totally was like that. And then after that, after well, actually, while I was making music like that, I started dabbling in chiptune music, which is old school video game style music. So
Mhm.
I even to this day, almost every other day, I'm still working on music just for fun, just in
That's
between
good.
pages. Yeah.
You said I forget what we were talking about uh, when we first spoke, and that we were going to be doing this interview. You said that was it? I think you said the mosh pit was the most important because you always had to have a handout if somebody fell.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
paraphrasing, but
No,
and
that's what it was. It was, yeah, if you were in the pit or on the show floor and you fell, yeah, I honestly imagine like your point of view looking at the lights, you would just see a dozen hands reaching towards you to
mhm,
just help you back up. Even if you didn't grab onto them, they would have grabbed you and pulled you back to your feet.
yeah,
And yeah, I don't know. I That always stuck with me as because when I was younger and I thought of like punk rock shows, I was like, oh, it's violent people with mohawks,
sure,
everybody screaming and like drinking, and that is kind of true. But what you aren't really shown on TV is the camaraderie, and
yeah,
that everybody's there to just have a good time and to make sure that like nobody gets hurt, and yeah, it was very cool. But I feel like a lot of that mentality can be applied to just everyday living.
absolutely. I agree, and I think that in business, I think that that's it doesn't have to be so cutthroat, and that's
Sure.
one thing independent creators, um, at least the ones that I strive to not just interview but meet and be part of in their network in their corresponding networks, is that handout to help. Not
Yeah.
necessarily handout to pay. That always goes hand in hand. But pardon the
Mhm.
pun. But I think that to help people is it's a vital thing, and no matter where you are in life, you never know that you helping somebody could pay it forward years down the road. You might end up
Right.
getting reciprocating that. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And I wouldn't have thought that in the punk scene at all. I would have thought, like
Yeah.
you were saying, I thought that it would be very cutthroat, very scary in a lot of respect. I love punk music, but I've never been to in that type of event. And I'm sure not just you, I've talked to other people, Eddie D'Angelini out of
Mhm.
California. He said the same thing. He said it was very, people would help each other. It would be, but you would only see certain sides of it sometimes too.
Yeah, no, for
So
sure. That's yeah, just like anything, you only see what you're shown unless you're, neck deep in it. But a lot of, yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize like it's a, like the punk rock scene had one rule, which was like, don't be a bad person.
yeah,
You don't have to be
yeah,
the best person, but like you can't be a bad person. You can't
hmm
put other people down. You can't discriminate. You can't hate. Like you show up, uh, and you can't. That's the first rule. And so yeah, there was a lot of good people in the scene back then. Yeah,
So
it
when
was
did
fun.
you start drawing? And what was the catalyst of that?
I started drawing when I was about, geez, how old am I now? I think I would have been in my mid 20s.
Hmm.
I was working at this recording studio, and I was living with my boss and his wife, and this was in like 2008 or 9 or something like that. I didn't have a smartphone. I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have the internet while I was living with them.
Hmm.
They had the internet, but it was a bit of a different time. I didn't have a device that I could always be connected on
Sure.
for watching things. And so while I was living with them, I ended up just going through their entire bookshelf, like reading every book that I could find just to keep myself, entertained. And I eventually got to uh, uh, what's his name? Chester Brown's Louis Riel.
Really?
It's yeah,
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow. That's very obscure. I mean,
yeah.
right?
No, that was the first graphic novel I read,
That's awesome.
and yeah, and I fell in love with the medium after that. Once I realized, like, oh, these are amazing stories for
Yeah.
adults. I'd never considered reading comics before. I could never afford them as a kid, and I
Sure.
would get the odd issue at the supermarkets or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But comics in Canada were like $5-6
Sure.
back
Sure.
then, and like that was back then money.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's I just didn't have that kind of cash when I was a kid. It was either that or candy, and I
Yeah.
always
You
chose
know
the
what?
candy.
You know what wins. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's it. So
So I mean, that's awesome though. So God, 20, it's amazing. I've been drawing since I was little, since I was like 4 or 5.
cool. Yeah.
Um, that's remarkable. I mean,
Mm,
especially with your
mhm.
line quality um, y- and your traditional artist. I mean, you do both, but I mean, you are a traditional artist, right?
I am, yeah.
In the mainstay.
Yeah, yeah. I've tried digital stuff, and I don't connect with it, which is
Yeah.
like the one of the first things that you need with the medium that you choose is
Hmm.
to connect with it. Like you could be the best artist in the world, and make the switch to digital and be good, but you may not connect with it.
Yeah.
And in which case, it's like, okay, well, why then?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
Everyone's so
understand that too.
different.
It's hard to do watercolor on, you know what I mean? It's,
It,
you can still
yeah,
get a great, it can do some amazing things with
you
digital.
can. Yes,
And
I was
you know,
streaming on Twitch yesterday,
yeah.
and somebody entered the chat saying that, hey, like I love your watercolor, and I'm trying to mimic it digitally right now. And we had a great talk about using Clip Studio to and brushes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool. But that is hard to do. That is that is super hard to mimic the watercolor style. There's been a few instances that I've seen of digital watercolor fooling me and just
Yeah.
me, like,
Me too. Me too.
yeah, and yeah, it's nice when that happens. To be
It's
honest,
it's a medium that's unforgiving. I mean, in the traditional sense, that's
yeah,
one of the things that once it's down, that's it. I mean, I've gone in and
yeah,
I've altered things. I've altered things digitally later if I have to
mhm.
enhance something or contrast it, adjust it, whatever.
Yes,
So if
yes,
it's oversaturated, whatever. But yeah, that's the beauty of the medium because it's that moment. It's very zen. It's there. It's very
yes,
purposeful, and you're in that moment, and that's it. That's the until you get to digital.
yes,
You know.
sure.
But what is your favorite medium? Is watercolor?
For sure, watercolor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
yeah,
Me too.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I noticed that when I was looking at I mean, just looking at Samurai Grandpa, I was looking at the lines, and I'm like, you're so you're very deliberate. And I was telling you that when we first spoke. I am too. I'm a very deliberate painter and very artist wise. Once the line's down, that's it. And that's
Mhm.
my architecture background too, I'm sure. But
Cool. Yeah.
um, you're you're deliberate to the point of I mean, that's your professionalism. I when I see the lines, I'm like, I'm actually, oh, I see how he did that. That's awesome. That's really cool. I know he didn't go over that line twice. I mean, it's like,
That's cool.
wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty sweet. And I know it's
Uh,
if you're an artist, you know what I'm saying.
yeah. No, I've always loved the idea of pulling a line once
Yeah.
instead of creating a segmented
Yeah.
line, right? That you're blending each end into the other. I think that's fine. And there is actually I read a lot of manga, and a lot of manga has line quality like that, and it's something that I'm starting to come around
Hmm.
to start actually like really enjoying the um, a line quality that looks like it was been like kind of segmented,
Right.
but uh, for like it's weird. It's just like a satisfying motion
It
to
is.
make when you just pull a line and it's just like
And you're good to
that's it. I
go.
don't have to touch it
Yeah.
anymore. It's like
Yeah.
it's good.
Yep.
you
I
know.
know in
Yeah.
drafting in architecture, we would when I was classically trained as an architect. So when we did the line, this is right before CAD came about. So I'm showing my age for computer aided design. And the line quality that we had to spin the lead as you're drawing the line. and it's to create this pin, this pinstriping effect. And it's not, if you're trained, you understand it, you look at it, you understand who has been trained and who hasn't. That's why I asked about your training, your education. So when you have a line like that, I mean, that's a gift, bro. You don't realize. I think there's a lot of people that would hate you because you haven't been trained. You know what I
I
mean?
think I think
Um,
well, it's funny because like that is true. I haven't been trained
yeah.
by somebody else. I've been trained by me.
Yeah, right.
You
And
know
that's
what I
great.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Yep.
it's a weird thing. And obviously, like when I say I haven't been trained by somebody else, what I mean is like an instructor.
Yeah.
Technically,
You studied.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Technically, I've been trained by countless people
Yeah.
because I've been reading and absorbing their work and
Yeah.
even like asking them questions when I meet them
Yeah.
and stuff. So,
And
you know,
that's
it's
something too that people are listening. Go do that. I mean, YouTube's awesome for that. I mean, there's so many things that you can learn. YouTube University is what I call it, because
yeah,
it's there. And whether it's books or whatever, you get comfortable with however you learn. That's great. But we're going to get into a little bit more about where you're going and where you've been the last few years with your books, because
cool.
this is exactly what I'm saying. You've got two people that have learned. I've been classically trained, and then you haven't. And there's two sides to it, and it both works. So
Both works. Yeah. Yes.
and that's to inspire you guys as creatives. That's why
Yes.
I wanted you on. Because I figured you're the poster boy for it, because I really wanted you to show people, hey, you can do this. You can build
Anyone,
this.
yes. And you know what's analogous to that is
Mm,
publishing, is
yes.
that you can go with a publisher, the classically trained way, you might say,
Mhm.
or you can do it yourself by self-publishing.
Right.
Yeah, it's all it's
What a,
all analogous.
what a great time that we're living in too, that we have the
Mhm.
opportunities. People
Yes.
say, oh, it's terrible, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay. If you want to prescribe to that, yeah, that's fine. But the way I look at it, the opportunities that are there now, even from 10 years ago, what we were able to do.
Mhm.
Now it's such an easy thing to self-publish. So let's talk a little bit about that. You've done it both ways, right? You had
Yes.
a publisher, traditional publisher. You guys don't know. Samurai Grandpa was with Source Point Press. So was Ogre, right? Or was
Ogre was Source Point, yeah. I ended up doing Terraquil with Source Point
That's right.
Press, and
That's
then
right.
I have Better Place published by IDW through Top Shelf.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how is it when you're Kickstarter, when you're doing all these things? Did you kickstart with SourcePoint or no?
I so actually I kickstarted Terraquil first, and that was for me, and then they picked it up after. Same thing with
Okay.
Samurai Grandpa. We self-published Samurai Grandpa.
Yeah. Yeah.
That got a little bit of popularity in the indie comic scene, and SourcePoint picked that up. So we had done
Okay.
Kickstarters without planning for these books to get published,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, what a better problem to have.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
and I mean, if people don't know, Travis is great to work with.
Yeah,
I've heard nothing but good things about him over the
yeah.
years.
For a sec, I just have to put over Travis and Josh as like
Yeah.
two of the hardest working people in
Yeah.
comics, and I don't think I would be here talking to you if it weren't for the hard work that they put into the scene.
Hmm.
The thing that attracted me to Source Point Press was that it felt like a comic, or sorry, it felt like a punk rock outfit,
Yeah.
where it was
I can
just
see
like
that.
everybody is like so DIY. We're gonna do this ourselves. We're not gonna we're going to do the things that we want to do, and we're going to make the books that we want. And it felt like a family. And so the more I
Well, and
learned about them and met them at shows and stuff, it was just like, okay, I love this,
And you see the
and
scope of
I'm
what they're
in.
trying to do, yeah.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
fact that the presence that they had in comic book shops was and is now remarkable. And that was the
yeah,
one thing that I've always respected about, because they were there. They're in the stores. They're
yes,
not You're not pushed back in like a um, just some type of independent shelf somewhere. I mean, you're actually in the trenches. You're right on the shelf with the rest of the grouping, which is great. So
yeah,
Source
and
Point, I have
a
a lot of
hundred
respect for
percent.
that.
And
Yeah.
to be clear, like those independent shelves, like if that's where your book
And
is
that's
meant to be, cool. That's
Yeah,
totally cool.
and I've been there too, and that,
Yeah,
but what I was saying in the perspective I mean is that I wouldn't have found
a
Samurai Grandpa,
hundred
I don't
percent.
think.
Yeah, Yeah,
I
yeah,
honestly, I don't know if I would have, because I wasn't looking in that area, and then all of a sudden I
right.
see this opportunity. Hey, that's cool. I like this. I like this
Yeah.
journey. I like the, um, old. I mean, just the whole format of what that is. How'd you come up with this with that story?
So that was Easton, the writer, who came up with
Yeah.
Samurai Grandpa.
Okay.
He he tells the story way better than I do, but I think he was feeling like grumpy one day, and he was on a really long car ride with his wife,
Okay.
and he just like had his arms crossed, and he was being pouty, and she said, told him that he sound like when he was talking to her, she was like, "Hey, you sound like a samurai, like a grumpy old samurai grandpa or something." And he was like, "Yeah, that's a great idea for a book." And then he pitched it to me,
Okay.
and I heard the name, and I was like, "I'm in."
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
even care what it's about. Like
I mean, the
that's
marketing side of it alone is worth it. I mean, that's the first thing. Like, that's pretty cool. All right, I'll take
yeah,
that. I'll take that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, was it hard to come up with a character drawing everything, the
Nah,
layout, everything that you're the
it
character placements and everything?
yeah, and it no, coming up with that character design especially. Uh, so this was about 2016 or so, maybe
Yeah.
2017. And I had just started drawing a book called The Bridge Builder's Creed that I self-published in 2021.
Okay.
And I was designing both of these characters at the same time, and they look almost identical. Like one of them has a long beard, and one of them has a short beard, and that's where the difference ends.
Okay.
They've evolved a little bit since I started kind of drawing them a little bit more for convention sketches and stuff like that. But at the
Yeah.
time, they look exactly the same. And that sometimes happens when, like, I noticed that with Illumon, which I released last year,
Hmm.
is that the main character has a striking appearance to a character I was drawing while I was writing Illumon. So that happens. I think I think I borrow from myself a little bit.
Nothing wrong with that.
Maybe I don't think there's anything wrong with that either.
No.
It's just one of those things that
And your style is, I mean, it is very. You were saying that manga and that are your. I mean, the style is incredibly. I mean, it's simple, but it's. I can completely see your 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 line quality. I can imagine it being duplicatable in your own mind. It's something that you feel comfortable drawing. You've done this. I mean, but the action poses, everything is just, it's awesome. I mean, and I tell everybody about why you consider yourself a cartoonist, because that was interesting to me when you stated that when we first talked
yeah,
or first spoke. Excuse me.
it's because, like, yes, I do draw, but uh, that doesn't really define what I feel like I am. Like,
Mhm.
yes, I draw, yes, but I also write. And to be honest, like, I prefer to do both. I prefer to tell a story. And when you're telling a story, of course, you can do that with just art or just words, but uh, to put them together, that's where it becomes comics.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I like to do. And that's what I want to do for a living. Well, that's what I do for a living and have been
Yeah.
doing for a living for 10 years. And while I can always contribute a script to a story and I can always contribute art to a story, those things aren't what I do every single day.
Hmm.
Even when I'm working on Samurai Grandpa, with which I'm doing right now with Easton, we're doing a follow up to that book.
Hmm.
Even when I'm working with Easton on his on that script, there are very likely moments where I'm adjusting that script, and not in like a way that would ever insult
Sure.
his creativity or his intention. We talk about this all the time. Where anytime I feel like it will help the story, he's given me like full permission to change dialogue, to change pages, to change the structure.
Okay.
When he sent me the script for this next book, I immediately was like, okay, let's add a prologue to this because I want to set things up a little bit better. I love the script that you've done. I think that we need to start it off a slightly different way. And
Hmm.
then he wrote 2 pages for a little prologue, and I was like, this is great. Let's make it 5. So
Okay.
and he'll do the same thing with art where he's like, hey, I'm going to put all of this reference stuff, like use as much of it as you want or as little of it as you want. The whole idea is saying that we have a very good working relationship with each other and
Sure.
we trust each other. Like, immensely with the processes that
And
we're
that's hard to
responsible
find.
for.
I mean,
That's really hard to find.
collaboration is so important on certain things.
Oh my
But
God.
you, like you, I'm completely not a control freak, but I like things done a certain way. And I you and I spoke about that too, because we do umbrella stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
everything that we do, and it takes us forever to get things done sometimes. For at
Yep.
least for me, maybe not for you, but collaboration is so important, no matter what the format is. It's a luxury that you've have with him.
It
So I
is.
mean,
Yes. Yeah.
that's great though
There's
that you guys, because you got a good product too. I mean, the IP
that
is
all
excellent.
always helps. That
Yeah,
helps.
well, it does. I mean, it does, but I don't think you
Yeah.
would have it if you didn't have the collaboration.
That's no, we wouldn't. Like, we absolutely would not. This was very much an Easton Taverna idea that he
Yeah.
has given me permission to explore with him. And, so yeah, we definitely have a great collaborative relationship.
Hmm.
But even when I'm collaborating with somebody, I like to exercise all of the hats that I wear for making comics, whether that's writing or drawing or putting the book together or coming up with layouts or all of that stuff,
Sure.
putting it together for print, doing all the letters. Uh, and so, yeah, I do all of that stuff, even for my work. I put all of the books together, I format everything, I do the writing, the art, and the letters. And that to me is not what a comic artist would,
Sure. I get
you
that.
could consider yourself a comic artist, but I think
Hmm.
you're more than that at that point. I think that's when you're a cartoonist, when you're, you know,
Yeah,
doing
I can
doing
understand that.
most of the
Well, and I
process.
don't think I think that term is it's not used enough in today's world. I mean, Charles Schultz. I mean, one of the major cartoonists in my life, Peanuts, any of the, I mean, incredible
Mhm.
cartoonists. And a lot of my growing up were all about cartoonists. They
Yes,
weren't about comics. And even though I enjoyed comics and I collected them since I was little, um, cartooning is, Hanna-Barbera. It goes on and on and on. So I have a lot of respect. So when you said that, I was like, because I hear a lot of people, I'm an illustrator and blah, 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 but I rarely hear somebody say I'm a cartoonist. And that was like, that's pretty freaking cool. So
I love it.
what would you tell, okay, somebody starting out right now, what would you tell them? Would you say, hey, collaborate with somebody? Or would you say, get your, keep everything real close to you, to your story. Just don't tell anybody about it. Draw it, get it produced, whether you're publishing it or whatever on your own. How would you, how would you facilitate giving advice to somebody that's just starting out?
So, are they starting out writing and drawing, or are they starting out
They,
drawing?
they've got an idea for a comic, let's say,
They have an idea
or an
for a
illustrated
comic.
book, or an illustrated book.
Yeah,
Do
and
they?
they're an artist as well, like,
Yes.
assuming they know
Yep.
how to. Okay, cool.
Yep.
So, in that case, yes, I would say, uh, try to so first of all, start small.
Yeah.
If you have an idea for a book that is 200 pages and it's your first book, you're probably not gonna finish it.
Right.
It's gonna change way too
Right.
much over the
Right.
course of making it. Start small, do short stories, keep them between 2 and 20 pages. Uh, do that and do a number of them. Well, I started with 10. I was like, I'm going to do 10 short stories. And
Okay.
then the thing is, by the time they were all done, I had enough material for a book. And then I was able to self publish that. So start small, do short stories, uh, have fun, make sure that you're learning, and don't try to overdo it for your first one because it's just not going to work out the way that you want it to.
Sure.
Eventually, you'll get to the point where so I'll give a bit of insight into how I started and what my ideal project or trajectory was
Mhm.
back when I was thinking about this a little bit more. I knew that I wanted to tell larger stories. I wanted like a series, quote unquote, right?
Mhm.
But I knew that you can't just start there. You have to like
You've
work your
got
way
to,
up to it,
yeah,
like
develop it.
anything.
Yep.
Yeah. So and there are also steps before, like a lot of steps before that. So the first thing was, yeah, short stories, putting those together. And then once I learned about the process, I I started working with other people because I was like, okay, I understand how scripts get made. I understand how art gets made. I understand how books get put together. I understand how lettering is done. Uh, Now that I know all of this, I can work with other people doing these various jobs, right? The various parts of what it takes to make a comic. And so I started learning how to collaborate with people after that.
Good.
And yeah, a very important skill. It's like learning how to collaborate
Sure.
with people properly. And because I had way more insight than I would have if I didn't, put these short stories together, I was able um, to offer a lot to the people I was collaborating with, and it felt great to be able to do that. Uh, as opposed to them being like, "Hey, I don't know how to letter. Do you? No. Okay, I guess we need a third person then." And because the truth is, when you add more people to the process, it does muddy it up a little bit. Not
Sure.
to say that you can't have 10 people, working on a comic, which honestly, that's how most comics get made these days. Is you have a writer, an editor, a penciler, an inker, a colorist, a letterist. Uh, everybody involved in putting the book together, the distributors. Like, there's a lot of people that go
Mhm.
into, not to say that you can't do it yourself, which is, what Easton and I like to do. So I would say to this person, this theoretical person who's, getting started, start with short stories, move on to collaboration. And then from there, either continue collaborating, or now that you have more experience under your belt, maybe that story that you wanted to do 2 years ago that was too big at the time, maybe it's right to start working on that now, which is what I did with Bridge Builders Creed. I put out a 200-page full graphic novel that
Mhm.
that followed a very the similar story structure to what you would see in uh, a 200-page graphic novel that you would find on shelves anywhere. I don't think I would have been able to do that earlier. I had to wait to get there to do that.
Sure.
But
Sure.
yeah, so then maybe you're in a position to put out this big graphic novel that you had ideas for. And then so for me personally, I was like, okay, so now that that's out, I've always wanted to do a series. That was kind of the whole thing that I wanted to do, 7, 8 years ago. And now I
Mhm.
feel like I'm in a position to actually be able to do that. And that's what Illumin's Seven Rays of the Sun was. It was the first book in a larger series that I'll be releasing. Because now I can do that. I'm very confident and comfortable being able to release a book a year in this series that I'm working
Yeah,
on. And
and I think but it takes like you said, it takes years to get to that point.
so many years, yeah. But
Crowd
the whole idea was,
crowdfunding's been your main,
yeah.
way of doing this. Do you
Yeah.
like that from a distribution standpoint, or do you like it from the collaboration of people coming in to help you fund this, or what is your draw on that? What's your take?
My take is I'm a little bit selfish and I like being able to do all of it myself.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like having uh, that experience. To me, it's so stressful. Like sometimes, and I don't mean to like turn anybody off from it. It can be stressful, but what I'm saying is like the opposite is true, where it can be an absurdly stressful job, you can reach the other end of that spectrum and just be filled with absolute bliss
sure,
when you get to see that finished product and when you see it resonating with people. Nothing compares to that for me. And I don't love it from a distribution perspective because there aren't many options. There aren't
right,
many
right,
creator-friendly options for distribution, unfortunately. You
right,
have to look online or you have to practice guerrilla tactics and
right.
visit shops, right? Do shows, stuff like that.
Yep, yep. And that's in that now that's just right now, because I think in the next 5 years you might be surprised what's probably going to
Oh,
happen.
yeah.
I think transitioning wise, I think that so that's a hopeful thing. I'm very optimistic when it comes to that. And I look for there's a
Yeah.
lot of trends that I think that is definitely an opening that
I'm
somebody's going to come
100%
in and
certain.
say
Yeah.
we're going to do this, and it's going to
Yep.
help out thousands of creators.
There will absolutely be an, indie diamond, if you will,
Yeah.
like a
Yep.
distributor,
Yep.
just for not just for indie comics, but mainly for independent comics. And I think it's going to be a big deal. I think, yeah, I wish I in the perfect world for me, there would be an online platform that
Yeah.
takes care of all of this
I
stuff.
agree. I
You don't
agree.
need a huge magazine every week. Um, it could be that simple.
Yep.
I really wish that companies like Kickstarter or crowdfunder or whoever it is you're working with, probably Kickstarter, to be honest,
Mhm.
would work in a distribution system.
I
And
think
even
it's an easy
it,
idea. I
yeah,
think
I've
it's
talked
yeah,
about this to the people
yeah,
running the comic side of it,
yeah.
and I've told them, very loudly, like I would love a way for as soon as the book is funded, I could upload all of my print files to Kickstarter, who then send it. They deal with the printer, they deal with everything,
Mhm.
even if it costs like you know a, an additional percentage of if they took more than their
Sure,
5% that they take,
sure.
which they would have to. Obviously, it's a lot of work. There, yeah, I think it will happen. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think
On the
yeah,
way.
and I say that so that people so that if you're starting out and you're creative and you're trying to make it to the point where it's going to be streamlined for you, just don't be scared about it. Get the you and I both said this when we talked earlier. Um, do your comics.
Mhm.
Don't worry about the rest of it. Do it. Make
Yep.
the world a better place through your storytelling, regardless. Even
Yeah.
if whether it's digital, whatever it is, get the stories out there because I think that that's everything else will fall in place. It'll take some time, but there's enough people that are doing this now that I think that you're absolutely right. I think that whether it's Kickstarter or whoever it is, it's going to happen. It's going to happen on an international scale too. It won't just be North America. It'll be
I
worldwide.
yeah, I hope so, man. Because like shipping from
Well,
Canada sucks.
yeah. Well, and I
So
think that that can be addressed with local printers. That's it.
yeah,
Nation or worldwide, it can be if you're, I've set this up with other in the UK. My stuff's printed in the UK. I don't
mhm,
ship anything over there. It's printed
right.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and it's all how it's just the logistics. Somebody
yeah.
will come in and have a brilliant idea, and then it'll be duplicated. And that's I think honestly. So rest assured, I think that it will happen. Um,
Yes, yeah.
and like I said to the creatives that are listening, understand, if you're just young or even if you're old, starting it out and don't worry about the logistics side of it. Get the stories out, learn, do the best you can with it. Take tidbits from things that, Shawn and what I've done and things like that and other creatives and do it, get it to the point where you can start building your stories because it's
That's it.
super, super important.
It is,
Um,
yeah.
Let me ask you about, all right, fast forward. You've been doing this 10 years. You still do the music, a little bit of the music side, make a few bucks there or whatever. What's coming down the pipe now that really shocked me is the cover that you're going to be offered. If we can talk just briefly about that.
Yeah.
And this is exciting because this is an independent creator, which this is really, I think, just an incredible opportunity, and I want to know how it came about. So go ahead and tell them what your Ted Davies artistry exclusive, by the way.
It's
So,
for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, the Jason Aaron reboot that's on the way,
mhm.
in late spring, I believe. But yeah, I'm super excited about it. It's I've
You
gotten
should be. That's huge,
yeah,
man. That's huge.
yeah, I've drawn a couple of covers for IDW for their Ninja Turtle stuff, Last
Mhm.
Ronin and one of their TMNT
Right.
Saturday Morning Adventures,
Yep.
and so it's. Uh, I guess we just have a good enough working relationship where stuff like this can pop up from time to time.
It's fantastic.
And yeah, so this is a variant. I think it's a retailer exclusive,
Mhm.
and it was approved immediately. Like I don't think he was expecting. He said, "Here's the idea. making sure it's fine with IDW. We'll know hopefully soon." And then an hour later, he's like, "Oh wow, okay, like
What
you've
a
been
what a
approved."
better
That's
compliment, huh? Yeah,
yeah, it
that's
was
awesome.
yeah, it was nice.
Are you
It's nice when
excited?
that
Are you
happens. Oh,
excited? I mean, it's obviously you've done other covers, but
oh, I'm so excited now, especially because I've drawn them more in my life over the past year and a half than I ever have, and
right.
so now I feel like I'm in a point where I've got my own versions of them, which is
It's your own
uh,
style. Yeah.
it's
And that's what it
yeah,
should be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes time to figure out exactly what that is and what it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
But now I'm more confident than I've ever been, and like I don't say that often. Like I don't. I'm not. Yeah, I always try to approach some
Yeah.
everything I do from like a space of I'm here to learn and I want to try to get
You're
better. And
humble. You're humble, and that's good. There's
a
nothing wrong
hundred,
with that.
I try to be,
Yeah.
yes, because I mean
How did
that
it
to me,
how did it come about with the IDW, collaboration with the other covers? And it was because you got published first with them,
yeah,
or did you
I,
just
I
meet somebody, or how did
I
that?
think I think it was because I had done Better Place, which was through IDW.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
and then I did some interior pages for one of their books called Canto,
Okay.
which was with IDW at the time, and yeah, just met editors that
Yeah,
way, So yeah, it was a very like organic process, and I got to do those the Canto interiors because the creative team reached out to me and they said, "Hey, like we enjoy the work. Would you mind contributing a few pages
that's
to
great.
this book?" Yeah, and because they own that book, it's up to them. I mean, they had the editors and the company have to okay that,
Sure.
but the creative team are the ones who find the talent and bring it to the editors, and then the editors, bring it to their higher ups, and like they have to get
Sure.
everything. So yeah, it's it's a process, but
Well, congratulations, man. I mean, but
yeah,
that's what I mean from a standpoint of, not obscurity 10 years ago, but it
no
just goes to
obscurity,
show, okay.
100%.
Well, it
Yeah,
goes to show you though. So don't ever, networking is important, but hard work, obviously, we hear that all the time, hard work, but it's
yeah.
also you've got to be driven to a certain direction too. I don't think it's
You
always just
do,
hard
yeah.
work. So,
No, it's hard work, but I mean, you gotta enjoy it as well. Like you mentioned networking, that's something that was always on my mind at every
mhm.
show I went to. I
Sure.
was like,
Me
"Oh,
too.
it's they're
Yeah.
gonna have dinners afterwards. There's gonna be networking and stuff." And it wasn't until recently where I was like, "Man, I don't care about any of that stuff." I don't love the idea of I'm gonna go out to hopefully, go out to dinner with these people and like
Yeah.
try and like rub elbows and stuff. It's
Yeah.
gotten to the point where I'm just like, oh, if I'm out to dinner with people and, like big
It's not,
names are there,
yeah.
like I just want to like say hi and like
It's not your intent
no, no,
to
no.
what I can get off them. You know what I mean?
Of
That's
course
that's
not.
not the way
No.
you should run business.
No.
I've
I
always
want
been
to
against that too. I've always been against that.
yeah, it's not a fun way to approach
No.
work essentially. I
Sure.
after the con is done, I want to go out have dinner with interesting people and hear cool stories.
Sure.
That's what I like
If
last
something leads to it, with business, great. But yeah,
yeah.
I'm the same way because
Yeah.
you're always going to learn. It's one
You're
thing you
yeah.
observe, you learn, and maybe they might learn from you too. So
Yeah. For
there's
sure.
always
Yeah.
a
There's
there's
always
always
that.
that, and I think that that's the right um, intent to have. I think that you
Yeah,
really
it's the only
everybody
intent.
wins.
Yeah, in Vancouver, on one of the evenings, we all went out to dinner, and Tom and Nancy Grummett were there, and
Sure,
Tom Grummett, like amazing, the
sure.
legendary, artist
That's
and
so cool.
creator.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he was just telling us about making King Shark and how the editorial staff was operating during Death of Superman because he was there for all of that,
wow,
obviously,
wow, yeah,
and about how the media you know, uh, just freaking out about like he can't kill Superman, and
sure,
he's like, guys, like, don't worry, like this isn't what you think it's gonna be.
right,
He had amazing stories to tell, and it was so much fun to just sit there and listen,
sure.
and to ask him questions and stuff. And
What
honestly,
an
that
opportunity! What an opportunity! Wow.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it
And
was
it's
just
not you're not name dropping. I mean, it's like when I first met George Perez and hearing some of the stories that he came up that he his it's fantastic. And it's not you're not name dropping, you're not
no,
oh, I'm
I
not
was
better, I'm better because I met this person or that.
no, I
No,
was just super
it's
excited about it,
yeah, you're
you know.
right, right. So, and you respect their time too. It's not like you're completely fanboying when you're around them. I'm sure you were just overwhelmed, but it wasn't like you weren't just you know what I mean, running up and here, can you sign this? That kind of stuff. I see that a lot too in this industry where
Hmm.
people get to the point where they're so enamored with the celebrity of it that you don't realize that they're human beings too. And you got to be really, you have to be
Yeah.
careful in that. So
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I've like the idea of celebrity to me has always just been very
It's kind of
I
sad.
just,
It's
it's
kind
kind
of
of icky.
sad. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
I've never liked that.
I've been around a lot of celebrities that can't even get dinner with their
Yeah,
wives because
no,
everybody's around them and they can't. And it's my wife and I witnessed a few times where that's happened, where we were with people and it was very unsettling. I felt really badly for them, even though
yeah,
they've reached the status and they've got all this money and glamour, whatever, fame, and they can't even get into a table to have dinner,
yeah,
just by themselves, just by
yeah,
with their loved ones.
yeah.
That's not the balance, that's not a balanced life. But
No, not at all.
um, appreciate you, man, so much. What are you happy? That's one thing
Oh,
I ask people all the time. Are you
that's a
happy?
good question. That's a really
Are you
that's a
content? Are you happy? Or
yeah, that's a really important question
it's a
too.
huge question. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so happy. I f it's kind of weird. It's like I'm pushing 40 right now,
Yeah.
and I feel not mentally, but somewhat mentally, the same that I did when I was, a teenager, just having fun with friends.
Sure.
I still kind of like making comics and reading comics and meeting new people at conventions and reading their comics is something that just makes me feel like a kid. Even though I never had comics as a kid, I still get that feeling of like just uh, youthful joy when I
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
And yeah, nothing is better. Honestly, I've been asked a few times like, oh, if you had to choose one, would it be music or comics? And like that isn't a question. That's like saying, oh, if you could only eat or breathe, what would it be?
Right.
It's
Right.
it's like, well, hold on a second. So I think, yeah, I am happy. Are you happy?
I am. I'm
Good.
very
Yeah.
I'm very blessed. I'm extremely blessed. I'm 15 or excuse me 13 years your senior. So I mean uh, I've been through the gamut of things. Yeah, absolutely. I have a yeah. There's nothing that I've set goals. I've achieved a lot, and I'm furthering as I'm going.
Cool.
My but I'm content. I'm at a
Good.
place in my life where I feel like, you know what? Yeah, you could always have a little bit more money. You could always have a little bit more, somethings in just being, if I could learn how to not worry as
Mm,
much as that I do, it's just the way I'm programmed.
sure. Sure.
That would be a luxury for me, but I'm working on that. But as far
Sure.
as
That's
happy, absolutely. I've got a
good. Good.
beautiful family. I've got friends I've got everybody in my life that I care about is healthy. And, I'm I live exactly where I want to live. I drive the car I want to drive, and I'm married to my best friend. So, I
Awesome.
can't, you know what I mean? And I get to draw, I get to create, and I get to meet other people that are creative and
Right.
that are bettering the world some way, and that's not just for themselves, but for everybody else too. And
Yeah.
I think that's a gift that we have that we're very, very fortunate because in architecture, I can make a home for somebody that they could live in and sell and whatever. But I can help them escape now into a story that has they can read for 20 minutes and they're away for it. They don't have to they can take a break from life. And
Right.
I think that's a pretty awesome magic trick I
Oh
have,
yeah, that's a huge
you know,
accomplishment to be
you
able
know,
to do that at all. Yeah.
and that
No,
people
that's great.
want to read them or want to look at my artwork. Are you kidding me? I mean, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Why wouldn't I be happy?
Sure. Yeah.
So,
It's not
but
even.
I asked that from a lot of people, and not all of them can answer that. A lot of
Yeah.
people are like, "Yeah, I'm not. I wish
And,
I had more money. I wish I had this. I wish I had that." And
and yeah, and that's okay
yeah, and that's okay. Yeah,
to not
it's
to have that yet. And honestly,
to
it's a bit
aspire
of
for it. Yeah,
it. Yeah, it's a journey. It's like anything else. It's like making comics.
yeah,
It's like, it sometimes it just takes a little bit longer, but
you're right.
the
And
key thing is that you're just not stopping and that you are,
right,
you
and
have good people in your life.
the side hustle is not a bad thing. If you've got to work outside of what you're doing to make something work, if you got
Sure.
to have an extra
Sure.
job or part time job, whatever, in doing this, don't feel like that's a bad thing. You know,
Yeah.
you're still an artist. You're still a
Yeah.
creator, you know.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you're anything less than, because that's something I tell people too. Don't feel like you got to go, listen, this is my plan A. This is it. There's no plan B. I get that. That's
Mhm.
my wife and I committed to this. You know, we knew going into this is going to be an adventure.
Right.
That's probably the best word to put it. But with other people, don't feel like you have to, because it's going to overwhelm your dream and your capacity, and you
Yeah.
won't be as creative.
Right.
Um, and you know, there's ups and downs too. I mean, there's people that take advantage of people. There's people that don't pay you for work. There's a lot of things that you know, you just have to plan. You hope for the best, you plan for the worst, and you try to be as positive and helpful to people that you can be. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
um, and I think it comes back. I think the vibe does attract tribe. I really do. I've seen it countless times in my life, and you included. I mean, I honestly, a year ago, 2 years ago, when I first saw your books in them, I'm like, yeah, it's cool. I'm gonna connect with them on Instagram. And then you, for whatever reason, you posted something. Hey, does anybody want to interview? Hell yeah, I do. I didn't know that you even have an opportunity. I'm like, awesome. I want to jump on that. So
No,
I want to make sure that I met you, because I really have, I've respected you for 2 or 3 years now. Really
thank you.
respected your work, and
I
I
appreciate
really
that.
mean that. So, and
Thank you.
you know,
That means a lot. Thank you. I've been on this kick about just wanting to talk about independent comic production for a while.
yeah,
Just because it just I'm excited for where I'm really excited for where it's going. I think that it's we're going to see so many new amazing projects over the next
hmm
5 years. I mean, we've seen so many new over the last 5 years,
sure,
and yeah, I'm just super pumped about it. Like at Fan Expo Vancouver last weekend, I got to do panels on
yeah,
Kickstarter and like indie comics production,
awesome,
and it's so much fun after the panels to see all of the people who stop by the table
right,
saying, "Hey, I saw your panel. I had more questions. Also, can you look at my portfolio?" And it's
yeah.
like
I was going to ask you about that. How many portfolios you look at?
about 10 or so.
Wow, holy
Yeah,
cow, man.
which was great.
Yeah,
It's not something I do.
no,
Like,
right.
and to be honest, I don't feel qualified to do that like
Wow.
at all.
I think you're qualified, but I think it's
I appreciate
overwhelming. I mean,
that.
you know,
Thank you. I mean, yeah, it certainly is overwhelming, but I did not. I was just like, why do you want me to look at your portfolio? Like, have you seen the amazing art that you're surrounded by right now?
yeah.
Uh, but at the same time,
You probably made their time there extremely special, because
it
it's not everybody does that. And
yeah,
you
not
know,
everybody can do that, and
yeah,
that's
correct,
totally
correct.
fair. Yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I hope that it made their time, feel
yeah.
special. It
I
should be. It
and I'm
should
sure you
be.
inspired them, and that's, you know, they were probably leaving on cloud nine. You know,
Well, that's the goal. I mean, the more people who we can kind of influence to make uh, comics, I think that's literally like we have to just pass it down. That's
yeah.
you
And I
know,
think inspiration's a funny thing, because it's reciprocating. Inspiration's a real funny thing, because we give it out. We might not even realize that we give it out, but we get it back. We get it back just
yes,
as much, you know, from a
yeah,
lot of these people,
yeah.
a lot of creatives. So, um, where can everybody reach you, man? Where can everybody find you?
Man, that's getting harder and harder to answer every year,
Yeah,
just because like Twitter is, something different now,
yeah,
and I always want to say like, oh, I just go to Instagram, but that doesn't sound,
yeah.
not everybody uses it, so it's just getting harder and harder. I have a Substack.
Yep.
Anyone can. It's free. There is no charge, and I update
Awesome.
it roughly once a roughly once a week. I have a Patreon, which I think the lowest tier is like $2 or something,
Awesome.
and it's just free content. The highest tier is $5. It's not even that much different, and it gives you access to every digital comic I've ever released myself. And
Fantastic.
yeah, that those two are good ways to kind of keep up to date with what I'm doing. If you don't like subscribing to things, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and that's mostly it. That's mostly where I
Yeah.
post. So
What we'll do too is in the description, I'll put your Substack link and your Instagram. I'm already following you on Instagram. I have for
cool.
quite a while. So, um, yeah, I mean, that's great though. I'm glad that you're on Substack too. I
Yes,
think
yeah,
it's, for me, it's a great platform. And just from
yeah,
the, I didn't really want to do Patreon, but Substack offered me, it offers me a good platform for what I want to do for subscribers. So I do
yeah.
both. I give freebies, but I also have a subscription as well. So,
Nice,
but
nice.
yeah, man, it's been awesome. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
no,
it.
thank you. It was nice to actually catch up and chat and just
Yeah, and I mean, I like to bring you back sometime just to touch base more on maybe some brainstorming ideas for the future for distribution and stuff.
yeah, of
What would be
course.
a
Yeah,
perfect what would be the perfect utopia, for
yeah,
comics? I
yeah.
think that'd be awesome.
I
If we
love
could
that.
get a
Yeah,
few people together and collaborate that, I think that'd be a great show, and see what everybody brings to the table.
I love that. I love that idea.
Okay,
It's yeah.
let's do that.
Anytime. Yeah, that's a subsection of self-publishing that doesn't get enough
Yeah,
uh, you know, uh, enough ideas, I think, put into it by the independent community. Not that people don't have ideas;
yeah,
they probably have amazing ideas, better than anything that I could come up with. But it's nice to hear about that, and I feel like I never do hear about that,
yeah.
which
Well,
might
then I
be
think we
my
should
own
get a
problem.
small group of creatives together,
Yeah,
that are all different, whether they're big dogs or not. That they've done it and yeah. I think that'd be good. I'll work on that. We can
cool.
kind of brainstorm on that, and we'll get a group of people together.
That
Let us know
sounds
in the
good.
comments what you think. If you have any suggestions of who you might think might be a good panelist, let me know, and we'll do that in the future. I don't know how soon, but we'll do it. I think that'll be great.
I love
So,
that. Oh, I should also mention I stream on
yeah,
Twitch 3 days a
yeah.
week.
I was going to ask.
Yeah,
Yes,
if anybody is interested in watching, so pages get done. For example, I painted this
let me bring
on
you up full screen.
stream.
Hold on. Yep. Oh wow, beautiful.
That's a splash page from the new Samurai Grandpa. I painted this on stream last week or this week actually. So
Awesome.
if anybody's interested in watching any of that stuff, that's probably a good place.
Do you have any
Check
of
one
your
of it out.
artwork for sale in Squarespace or anything? Or
Uh, I do have a comic art dealer.
yeah,
Athenium Comic Art
mhm.
is uh, I think they're in Michigan actually.
Are they really? How
I
ironic. Okay.
think so. I might be wrong about that, but they're close if they're not in Michigan. So uh, yeah, they sell my pages, but I also sell my pages myself as well.
Okay.
You know,
Just contact you
so
through Instagram or Substack or wherever.
yeah, if there's a page on their website that you like, pick it up there.
Okay.
If you are looking for something else, just message me. It happens all the time, and this is one of the reasons I do art on paper because I like to be able to charge a low page rate and then make that up by selling the physical
I
piece.
understand 100%.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
I agree. And I've had a lot of people ask for, they might, something strikes them without text on it. They really like that panel from that book.
yeah.
And they just, it's just the way it works. It's a
That's the way it
twofer,
works.
really.
No, I've had people buy my books and say, "Oh, I love this page," and it's like, well, guess what? You can
Here
own
you
this
go.
page. Yeah, yeah,
Thanks again, man. You
yeah.
rock. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking an hour out of your day. And I know you've been busy and
Oh
traveling
no.
all over the place. When's the next con you're going to be going
Uh,
to?
that's Toronto Comic Con in March,
Okay.
and then a few weeks after it's Chicago, and then a week after it's Philly, and uh, and then I think it's Canada Fan Expo in the summer. So
That's
yeah, it'll
great.
be busy leading up to that.
Good deal. We need to get you to
Yeah.
Michigan, man. We got to get you to Michigan one of these
I
days.
want to so badly. It's
Okay.
honestly, it's been on my list for years. I just, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
soon. Yeah,
Well, I'm going to let you go. Thanks again for stopping in and being part of this podcast. 'Cause I think you got a lot to offer the public, my man, but you
cool.
also
Thank
have a
you.
lot to offer creatives, and I
I
appreciate it.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Stick
Appreciate it.
around for a minute. I'll be right back with you. Okay.
Cool.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, man.
So there you have it, guys. Sean's a creative with a conscience, with a heart, and that's something we don't find in a lot of things in business. So maybe you can build your business that way too. Um, he's going places, and I'm glad that he took some time that we could actually have him on here, that we could hear about his process, hear about what he's aspiring to do. I don't know if it resonates with everybody, but I see there's some definite benefits of what he does as a creative, and you might see it too. I think that a lot of you will. So please check out everything that I'm doing on this station or on Substack. with the QR code there. Check everything out we're doing there. Become part of Ted's tribe. Subscribe. We would love to have you be part of this journey with us. Much success, no envy, no fear, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks again.